of events. Ah, yes. So, hello again. The recording has begun. So, welcome to the festival. Welcome to our today's event, the International Festival of Mentoring Teacher Research in ELT. And it's a year-long festival, which started back in March with the conference, online conference, Teachers Research Conference, which we try to have every year. And it's when teachers from around the world come and present on their practitioner research with their mentors who are supporting them. And it's a very international event. If you go to our website, the website is Mentornet, MENTRNET, mentornet.net, which stands for Mentoring Teacher Research Network. And then the festival website. By the way, please feel free to browse our website overall. If you're interested in mentoring teacher research, you'll find lots of resources. And if you are a teacher who's doing teacher research, you'll also find lots of resources here for your teacher research and stories from around the world, from different teachers, and as you can see here. But today we're focusing on the festival and the festival that we are arranging, and you can see that it's supported by Mentornet. It's supported by the British Council. It's also supported by the Teacher Trainer Journal, and is supported by the IATEFL Research SIG. And the aim is to map and draw lessons from different initiatives, different teacher research mentoring initiatives around the world, and to encourage or inspire others to maybe set up different arrangements for mentoring teacher research. And so far, so this is today's event. So far, we've had quite interesting events you can see here, and you can see recordings of each of these events. So if you click on this, you can see recordings from teachers' research from the conference last year. Oh, sorry, from this one. If I go down a little bit, you can see we've had a webinar. We've had a webinar with different mentors sharing the challenges they've been facing and how to overcome them. As I said, you can click on the video recording and watch that. We've then had some very interesting presentations about different initiatives around the world. For example, from Uzbekistan, in Uzbekistan there is actually a special association just for teacher research, for supporting teacher research. It's called Netrus, and you can hear about that. Hopefully, it might inspire others to set up a similar network in their own countries. There's also very interesting project in Thailand at the moment, and today we have Patcharin from that project. But we heard all about this project from the organizers, trying to develop mentoring in Thailand among school teachers. And just this morning, they had the final event in their year-long project, but it's going to happen again next year. We also had this one, which was from Africa, Rwanda. So how you can support teacher research inside a teacher association. And the last one we had was a British Council partner schools program. It's about how teacher research can be supported in schools, not only with English teachers, but with teachers of all different subjects. Now, I'm organizing this festival together with my university, Warwick University, and with support of a grant from the UK Economic and Social Research Council. Now, today's event is called Teacher Researchers Becoming Mentors. Because what we've noticed, there have been different projects and different initiatives around the world. And in MentorNet, we bring together experiences, a monthly meeting where we hear about experiences from the different projects and different initiatives. But what we've noticed is that sometimes teachers who come up, who do teacher research themselves, quite often want to start to mentor teacher research. They quite often want to help other teachers to have the experience, the positive experience that they have had. So today's event is rather special because it's not necessarily particular projects, but it's individual mentors that we know, who we know, sharing experiences of how they became mentors or why they became mentors, doing it in a completely voluntary way with teachers in their school or teachers in their surroundings. Well, let's see. Let's see what it's going to be, what the experience is going to be. So I just want to introduce briefly our panelists today, and if we could just maybe mute your microphone if you're not speaking. If I'm so I'll just do that. Okay. So today, this is what we're doing. We've got 5 mentors from different parts of the world, and we're going to hear some of the success stories, but also challenges that they have faced in becoming mentors, having done teacher research themselves. Marta is from Buenos Aires in Argentina. I'm going to share this with you all in the chat so that you can read this as you like as we go along. I won't say much more about Marta because I'm going to ask Marta and each participant to introduce their own context and tell us a little bit about their experience of teacher research and becoming a mentor. We also have Sidney Martin, originally from Australia, but now in Spain. We also have Patcharin, Kunna, also known as Rabbit, and a teacher from that project I mentioned in Thailand, a school teacher, and a very active mentor as well. Silvia Severino, I've known for some time as a teacher in Argentina and mentor now. And also, finally, Regina from Mexico, a teacher in Mexico who became a mentor of other teachers. Okay, so I'm just going to ask, so welcome to our speakers, welcome to all of you, to everybody here. Thank you very much for agreeing to be on this panel. Yeah, I want to ask you, each of you, actually just to tell us a little bit about, where you're based and describe how you first got into researching your own practice as a teacher and what you gained from that, and then why and how you first got into mentoring other teachers to do teacher research. And I don't know, shall we start with Marta, maybe? Would you mind starting? That's up to 5 minutes. So we'll hear up to 5 minutes from each teacher. And I will rudely interrupt you if it goes a bit longer.
Okay, no, I think it will be less than that.
Okay, perfect.
It's very short and simple. Well, as Richard has said, I'm based in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and I first became acquainted with exploratory action research and teacher research in 2017 in Buenos Aires. There was a conference called Teachers Research, and there I met Richard, and I just attended out of curiosity because I really felt that I had to do something different about my lessons and about my own teaching practice. So I said, okay, let's go. And there was, as usual in these events, poster presentations. And one of the poster presentations that caught my attention was one by Leila Núñez. Leila is a champion teacher from Chile. Maybe later you can read about the Champion Teachers Project. And so Leila gave me her personal card and I contacted her. And I said that she was my first mentor, informal, but she was my mentor. And she marked a great model of how a mentor works. And I felt so happy and so grateful for being mentored and for finding that what Richard had said a couple of months before was real. So, well, that was the first thing. And then the following January, February, I joined the EVO sessions, Electronic Village Online. You can later get to know about that. And I did some more practice, and Silvia was a moderator there, weren't you? Yes, okay, right. So there was a wonderful team of mentors who also gave me this energy and this happiness of saying, well, a teacher can do something about their own class. So, well, this was mainly it. And there was another part of the, no, maybe that, mostly that.
Now you're a teacher. You're a
Yes.
teacher in a school
I've just
in Buenos Aires.
retired a couple of months
Right.
ago, but
Yeah.
I was a teacher in secondary schools for over 35 years. So after so many or so much teaching almost the same things, I needed some challenge. And I felt and I found that exploring my own classroom and questioning myself as a teacher was a fantastic thing to do. And then when I became a mentor.
Yeah. How did you become a mentor? Who were you mentoring?
Okay. Well, I have to mention Evo again, the Evo sessions again. Because there was a session, I don't remember the year, Richard, must have been 2019, the first one?
20 maybe, 2020. Yeah.
And I joined the Evo sessions for becoming a mentor. I was absolutely afraid and I felt I'm crazy, I cannot do this, but I finally found that I could. The thing is, I couldn't find mentees very easily, but then I did find my own colleagues at school and teachers who were not teachers of English. And I said, okay, if I feel so satisfied with this way of working and digging into my own lesson, why couldn't other teachers who are not teachers of English have a try? And well, the experience was really interesting and very productive. At least that's the background, the feedback I got from my colleagues, right?
Great. So good story. So we're going to hear some really good stories here. So we'll hear a little bit more later about the challenges maybe of finding teachers, but also challenges you faced as you took your first steps into mentoring, but also, of course, successes that you had. But thank you, Marta. Let's think.
One more little thing. One of the challenges I faced was that my mentees didn't speak any English, so I had
let's talk about that later. Let's keep that in your mind because we'll have that question later.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marta. So just so that's setting the scene. So Sidney, how about in your case, teacher research yourself and then becoming a mentor?
Right. Well, I'm the principal of a state language school in Tarragona, in Spain, and I'm also a teacher of English. So I'm in a privileged situation because I'm the principal of the school and I can set goals related to mentoring and teacher research. So it's a little bit of an advantage. And I first got into researching a long time ago because when I started teaching, basically, because I love doing research, which is basically asking questions. And how can I help my students? How can I improve my teaching practice? And well, that's basically research. Um, you always ask questions about how to improve your teaching, and after some time, when you start helping your colleagues, that becomes a kind of mentoring as well. But it sort of everything sort of improved when I joined the Evo courses. There was this Evo course run by Richard Smith and Paula Rebolledo, I remember. And they gave me the tools and a model to follow. It was exploratory action research. And I was really happy about it because you read a lot of books about research and teachers doing research in their classrooms, but this is a very straightforward model and very flexible, and I really liked it. And it's easy to pass it on to others. So I was really happy in that course. And also as for the mentoring side, also the Evo coach, just like Marta, uh, uh, when you start passing on the information systematically, then I think that's beginning to be something like mentoring. And the Evo course and mentoring again gave me the tools and also meeting other people with the same questions, the same challenges, the same success story, well, similar success stories. And actually, well, if you haven't joined Evo courses or you haven't joined it, Mentornet, just do so because it's really enriching. And, I could add a lot of things, but I think it's almost 5 minutes, right? Or not? Or
Well, we'll come back to anything you
right.
want to say later. So it sounds like you kind of it's interesting how you know, you've identified yourself now as a mentor, but maybe you got into it without really knowing that you were getting into mentoring, and that's what happens, I think. As we grow, as we develop as teachers, we start to share more with others, and we realize actually we are mentoring. I've just thank you, Sydney. I've just dropped into the chat a link to the resources page that we have in MentorNet, which is this association which we have, which is bringing that mentors together, mentioned by Sydney and by Marta. And for those of you who are starting to wonder, about yourself as maybe as a teacher, just thinking about maybe doing teacher research. I know some of you are in that situation, but also those of you who are familiar with doing research into your classrooms, starting to wonder about maybe sharing that with other teachers, just like Marta and Sydney have mentioned, in different situations. Of course, Marta in school in Argentina, Sydney in a more of a language institute, your own language institute in Spain. Then you can definitely find some resources there on that page to help you. Okay, and both of you have mentioned something called EVO, so I will just explain that. It stands for Electronic Village Online. It's something that the TESOL International Association interest section arranges every January and February. So we used to have these every year for teachers who want to become teacher research for 5 weeks, like a free course, and then for mentors. And the first one for mentoring was in 2020, and we've done it almost every year since then. We are not going to do it in the same way in January and February this coming year. But we are within MentorNet going to offer something very similar. It will be for mentors, for those of you who want to become mentors, who want to start mentoring.
At the roundabout,
That's it.
take the second exit onto B4101, Tile Hill Lane.
Interesting. That's directions in Coventry, I believe. I've just muted that. It will be in April to May, and we are going to do that for mentors. Those of you who want to become mentors, or those of you who are mentors. So whenever they talk about Evo as an influence, we will be doing that again, but not within Evo. Evo is great. It does lots of courses and lots of things which you will probably see publicized, but we're not going to do it for mentoring or for teacher research this time next year. MentorNet is going to organize it, April to May, and then there will be one for teachers. Again, that will be starting in September to October. So it's slightly going to be different, but this opportunity will be there for you if you keep in touch with us with MentorNet. Right. So who's next? Let me just see. After Sydney, I'd go to Patcharin Rabbit. And Rabbit, thank you very much for being with us, even though today you already had a presentation or you brought your teachers within the Thailand project. Over to you.
Thank you, Sadika. So I may say good day from Thailand, but good morning to everyone, or good afternoon for some of the part of the world. And my name is Patcharin Kunna, or you can call me Rabbits for short. And I'm currently working as an English teacher in the northern part of Thailand, and is an extra large school which is in the town of Chiang Rai, which is in the north of Thailand. And I'm teaching grade 9 students, and because I have opportunity to work with British Council, and I have lots of training with mentors from many parts of the world, and I think that my teaching is quite great personally, but later on, in the classroom, we can't expect something that, goes smoothly, right? And maybe I'm opposite from Sidney because he liked research, right? But I'm not. I hate research. And I can think that research is not my cup of tea because I hate numbers. I hate complicated things. So that's why I don't like doing the research. But in Thailand, teachers have to do the research, especially for the one who want to do the promotion or the one who want to, be the mentor or something like that. And then because of that, I need to do the research, but something that I don't really like it. So that's why I do it just because I have to do it. But but research is something that I want to overcome. So that's why when I saw the poster of the project from British Council Thailand and KMUTT that they are going to launch the new project called classroom research or something that around research in Thailand for Thai teachers. So I jumped in immediately because I want to overcome and I need someone to help me with the research. And the very first day I think, that would be something academic thing or another type of difficult things from the research again. But I try to open my mind to learn and think about what is the research that I'm going to learn from that project. And it comes with the EAR, which I have no idea what is it. But later on when I have the experience and with the help of the project manager and with the help of Janu, she is very good mentor and she helped me, she gave me time to do the work and she support me to do everything something that I'm not really sure about. And I feel impressed. And and one thing that really, really admired me and inspired me is when she asked me to be in the IATFL presentation for the research SIG on that year. And I feel like I had an experience to be in the on-site of IATFL before with the British Council in Liverpool. But that time I'm not really interested in research. That's why I don't know that this SIG is also in IATFL. But at that time, she really motivated me to be a part of this. And I think that even me who is not really like research can do it. Maybe I can inspire my another teacher to help to continue to do the research. And the way that I like EAR is because it's very simple. I don't like complicated things, right? And it's teacher friendly. And it's very, help me to see the things that I'm not really think about. For example, listen to the student. As I mentioned earlier, that I'm very confident in teaching, and I'm very proud of myself, my teaching. But later on, when I listen to my student more, I learn more from them. So that's why I need to step back, and then listen to the other people involved in the classroom. That's the story of myself. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Rabbit. So, Rabbit's a school teacher, of course, in Thailand. It's very interesting how your motivation was you don't like research, but you had to do is you were told like in some countries, Nepal or Thailand, teachers are told they should do research, they should do action research, and that's not what we are saying. We like to think of teachers' research as something that teachers want to do, but now I think you've got a more positive view of that, so much so that you are actually a good mentor in Thailand, and I know that you gave a webinar for 1,000 teachers in Southeast Asia recently about it. Right. So that's a great another amazing story. Thanks, Patcharin. We'll come back to your challenges and successes in a while. I think Silvia, would you mind sharing your story?
Okay, well, my my experience of this adventure began 10 years ago in 2014 when the school where I worked offers extra hours for presenting projects. I presented together with other subjects. I presented one about blended learning, and but the school wasn't interested in that at that time. Computers were not as common as nowadays, so I couldn't carry out that project at that time. But later on, I learned about an award offered by the British Council, and I presented, that was for Latin America only. There were 6 awards, and I was fortunate and won one of them. And it was blended learning in English secondary school classroom, an Argentinian experience that then was published in Horizontes 1. Then the school paid a little more attention to my project, and I could implement that in 2015 together with a colleague, because it was a project where we needed to split the course in 2 sections, let's say. The project was carried out in Escuela Técnica 35 in the city of Buenos Aires, an old school that was founded in 1951, and students graduate after 6 years of studying there as technicians. Especially the interest of the school is in cars, so no English for them at that time. And well, because they study during 6 years, because the idea is then that when they finish school, they can apply for a job with an intermediate degree, let's say, as technicians in cars. Well, I implemented that project about learning, blended learning, and well, I was successful for teachers, let's say, because it was an incredible experience. But the school, the authorities, as I said before, here are not interested in that. This is a state-run school, and the interest is that students study at school and get the degree, and not in English. But then, well, I have the chance to present the project in a conference in Chile, where I met Mariana Serra, and we decided, as we came from Buenos Aires, she lives in another city far from Buenos Aires, but in the province of Buenos Aires. And we realized that we had similar problems with authorities at school, with students, and decided that we could prepare a project with the aim of helping our colleagues and especially students to learn English and, well, to offer something different. We were very curious, Mariana and I, so we went on reading and with many ideas, and could prepare another project, this time as mentors. The first experience about blended learning, I was a researcher of my own class. I was a mentee. My mentor was Dario Vanegas. It was great to work with him. And then, well, the following year, in 2016, we could present in a conference in Buenos Aires the project that we prepared with Mariana Serra about helping our colleagues, the teachers in the classroom, help their students to improve their writing skills with the use of computers in the classroom. Well, it was to be a mentor or mentee in Argentina in public schools is really a challenge, because we don't have any support from authorities, and colleagues had a very heavy workload at school with a lot of bureaucracy to follow. So, but it was great to learn and to go on learning, yes? So, well, I don't know if I am missing something that I can add later. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Silvia. It is inspiring to hear your story and to hear all of your stories. Let's move on to and you mentioned some challenges, but some success as well. We'll come back to that. Let's move on to Regina, please.
Hello everyone, my name is Regina. I first got into exploratory action research because I saw on Twitter a call for participants, and it was published by British Council. At that time, it caught my attention because it said in big bold letters, champion teachers. I wasn't a champion, I was just a teacher, right? And I was struggling with a lot of things. And one of those things was that I was teaching 12 groups. My salary was like half of that at that time. But I wanted to be a good teacher, the best teacher, because in my mind, like the image that I had from the ones that taught me English was of great teachers. Like I learned quickly, it was always fun, and I was always happy as a student. But my students weren't, they were struggling with reading especially. So I called some friends and I asked them if they had ever heard about champion teachers or the champion teachers program. And of course, no one had really heard anything about that. So I remember that I read the call for participation really carefully and slowly, like I look at every single detail. And what caught my attention was the word reflection, because at that time I used to believe that a good teacher reflected in his or her practice. So I chose a question and I developed my essay and I submitted it. That was in, I believe, November 2017 and then I got an email and British Council was telling me that I was awarded a scholarship. That's what they call it, a scholarship for participating in this program. So at the time, I had no idea that we were going to conduct research in the way we were invited, right? Like the key word for me was reflection. I am going to reflect on my own teaching practice and it will help me to overcome the issues that I have, maybe, right? I went with no expectations. Then I had a 2-day workshop with Paula Rebolledo, and she was my mentor at that time. And I was so impressed by her because she is very, how can I explain this? Like she knows what she's doing and she teaches you to do it in a way that is simple for you, but also practical. So after that first workshop, I was assigned to Carla Barra, and she helped me throughout the process and gave me tips and insight. And when I found myself lost, she kindly sent me an example. And I believe that a lot of things that happened during that period of time had to do with learning to believe in myself as a teacher, reflecting on my own teaching practice, and taking into consideration my students, which nobody does here in Mexico. Like, we have the idea, this is a generalized idea, that teachers know best and they know better than students. So at some point, I faced a challenge, but not with my students, but with the people, the higher ups in my school, the authorities, the principal. Like, they told me that I couldn't conduct research because like that wasn't possible. When I inquired why, what was the reason why, they told me, oh, because you're probably trying to get a promotion and you want more money. And it shocked me because, yes, I was struggling to make ends meet, but I didn't want more money. I wanted to be a more efficient teacher, a more caring teacher. I wanted to be like the teachers that taught me English. And they didn't understand that at all. So I had issues there. And Carla.
Regina.
Yes.
let's stop there, and we will move on to how you became a mentor in the
Yeah,
next
sure.
part, because that
Thank
will
you.
be very interesting. Thank you. So that's something about the challenges and the constraints in your context. Let's move on to, I'd like to invite everybody actually who is listening just to write any comments or questions you have in the chat, and we will try to come back to those as we go along. So please do interact and write your questions or comments. Now, well, I've been listening to you five and noticed that there are quite a lot of common, well, not common necessarily, but some affordances, I would call them, some things which have been supporting your journey. And I'll just list them. Um, Several of you have mentioned particular projects. Regina has talked about the Champion Teachers Project. Patcharin has talked about the project in Thailand. The British Council often has been doing these projects, and we should acknowledge that this is how many of us have become involved in mentoring teacher research. So a few of you mentioned the opportunity to go and present at a conference online, which you're calling the IATEFL conference. It's actually IATEFL Research SIG conference, special interest group of IATEFL. The Research SIG has been supporting things like the conference every year called Teachers Research. Actually, it was in Buenos Aires, in Chile, in Turkey, and then during the pandemic, we began to do this online. We do this every year. There will be another conference next March. And as I said, on the festival website, you can see this year's March conference presentations, and several of you mentioned how encouraging that was for you to go and present your teacher research, and then maybe think, oh, I could help others. Several of you mentioned the Evo TESOL call intersection Evo, which as I talked about earlier, workshops to support you to become better teacher researchers, even if you're not in a project or anything. That is a possibility. And then workshops to become a mentor, which we will do this next year in April and May. MentorNet itself has developed over these last few years. MentorNet as an international association of mentors, free to join. You can join through the website MentorNet, MENTR net, and that's a place that several of you have mentioned. Several of you have mentioned the kind of teacher research that you've been introduced to, because, for example, you may have had images of research as something very academic, something that you had to do, like Patcharin said. And so you mentioned a simple, practical kind of teacher research, exploratory action research, EAR, as it's sometimes called, which we have been developing with Paula, Chile, over the last 10 years. And there are handbooks which you can find on the website to introduce you to that particular approach. And several of you have mentioned by name individual mentors. And mentoring is so important, I think, to accompany teachers in their first steps in teacher research. And you've mentioned particularly inspiring people, like Maria mentioned Leila in Argentina, Paula in Chile, etc. Now, this is why we are focusing on mentoring and the importance of mentoring. And but I think another affordance or way that we can support teacher research is really coming from inside you as teachers. It's your own motivation to not just stay doing the same thing over and over again, being demotivated by challenges, because let's talk about challenges now, but your desire to be a good teacher. I think, Regina, you said that, wanting to be a good teacher, wanting to be a better teacher, wanting to be a champion teacher, if you like. Right, so these are affordances. Managers like Sidney, he's managing his school, could be an affordance, could be something that can support teacher research. But we have also heard how schools don't always support teachers' development. We've also heard that. We've heard that there can be pressures to force teachers to do things like research, which may be actually not really helping. And the image that teachers may have of research may not help teachers. So school support or lack of support may be an issue, may be a challenge. But let me ask each of you to focus on your experience as mentors now, not as teacher researchers, but mentoring. What have been one or two major challenges? How have you overcome them? How have you developed as a mentor? I'd like to ask you that question. Marta, I'll start with you again. Please take your time because maybe I cut you off earlier. Just speak as long as you like.
All right. Well, one of the most important challenges was that I felt that I needed to share my experience as a mentee, as a teacher, researcher with my colleagues. And I said, why not? And, you know, when you work in a school, just as Silvia was saying, in particular, at least in Buenos Aires, I don't know in the rest of the country, but school authorities seem to be so overwhelmed by so much bureaucracy they have to comply with, that they really can't stop for a minute and consider a possibility of having their teachers doing something different or something that may contribute to teacher development. We have to say that in Buenos Aires, in the city of Buenos Aires, the Ministry of Education has a department that offers free professional development instances for teachers at all levels, from kindergarten to secondary level teachers. But sometimes they are so prescriptive, and those courses they offer, which of course help teachers to obtain a promotion or to add some points to the career in the public system, educational system, and that is a possibility to access better jobs within the schools that depend on the Ministry of Education. In spite of all that, these courses I have attended those courses, of course, but they are so predictive. That's it. They offer what the ministry considers that the teacher needs. But
prescriptive.
Yeah. But not always do they stop again and ask teachers, what do you need? What's happening in your classes? What's happening in your lessons? So this is what I found as a distinctive and ideal characteristic or feature in exploratory action research. What we do is dig into what the teacher needs or what's happening or what is making a noise in a way, the issues that teachers have in the classroom. So I said, yes, I do need to go for this. And with teachers of other subjects, I wanted to prove to myself and to prove to others that exploratory action research can fit other educational contexts, not only teaching English. And I think I have proved it. What I'd love to do is to keep on the practice, keep on practicing this, but the context is very hard. I had to knock on the headmaster's office twice or three times to say, can you please give it a chance? Can you please give 10 minutes to read my project? I have submitted this project. I submitted it 2 months ago. I had no response. Please do. And I said, okay, I will consider it. And then I know a couple of days later, he said, okay, you can go for it. Okay, thank you. But if you don't insist, it's very difficult here in Argentina. Well, that was one of the challenges. I think I have overcome it in some way. I had 2 years running when I could implement a workshop for teachers, and I was their mentor. We met weekly, and that was quite a good experience. The other challenge was the language. In my case, because the handbooks are in English, and my colleagues didn't know any English, or at least they didn't know enough English to understand what they could read, or what was to be read in the handbook. So I asked Richard and Paula Rebolledo for permission to translate some sections, the most important sections of the handbook for exploratory action research. They allowed me to do my own translation. I'm not a translator, so I did my best as a teacher and as a mentor. And well, I finally could use it with them, and it was a really good experience. So thank you again, Richard, and Paula too.
Okay, no, we don't need to give you permission. You're very welcome, anybody, to translate it for your own purposes. And actually, I wish that there was a Spanish translation, or because there are a lot of teachers in Latin America who could benefit, not just English teachers. And so maybe that's a project in Mentornet we could think about. I think we always thought about a translation for
I'd be
teachers of other
delighted
subjects.
to
Yeah,
give you a
fantastic.
hand if you.
Brilliant. Okay, so challenge, but you know, it's a challenge. I mean, I found that in Nepal, there were teachers from other. Janak is there. I can see there were teachers from other subjects, and the English teachers helped them to understand. You know, often, but we need translations. I think. Yeah, you're right. All right, thank you, thank you very much. I'll move on to Sydney. Some of the challenges or successes, up to you.
Right, thanks. Challenges is one of them was the word research is a little scary for teachers, and they think it's done at the unis, and it's only done there. And the problem is that whatever comes from the uni doesn't really apply to their reality around them. So it's even worse. So they're scared of the word research, and they see that there's no practical usage of the findings they collect at the uni level. So actually, that was my challenge, to make them see that they're actually doing research when asking questions, and asking the right questions, and implementing a method to collect the data, and then interpret the data and drawing conclusions. They're doing exactly the same as the researchers at uni, and that I think that's the challenge, to paraphrase what happens at the uni level and bring it to the high school or secondary context. I think paraphrasing was the challenge, and once they saw that they could do it, then they took it on board, and they started to feeling more confident, and they even had a critical no they were able to distinguish what was useful and not useful coming from research papers, and they were developing this critical thinking skill as well. And I think that's one of the challenges. There are many challenges, but I think this is basically it. I mean, research is a scary word, and what I do is I use your handbook, the handbook for exploratory action research, and I do it with my teachers, my colleagues, and I do it with them, and we go chapter by chapter. And when they start reading the experiences in each chapter, and they see that they relate to it, and they see that the people in the chapter, I don't know if you've read the handbook, but I strongly recommend it. There are people inside each chapter sharing the challenges and success stories. And when they start reading and seeing that they have the same challenges and similar success stories, then they even feel more confident. So I think it's confidence building, and making them feel less scared towards the word research. I think that's the
Okay. Yeah, I have found the same as you, Sydney. This is a major barrier. Actually, it's a pity, isn't it, that universities can create this barrier, actually, to engagement in research. Universities are supposed to be, if you any of you are university teachers, I am, And I'm trying, well, I've got some of my students here actually. I hope they agree that I'm trying to make the idea of research something attractive and not too overpowering or kind of exclusive, but something inclusive that we all do in our everyday lives. This is one way I try to start to talk about research. We all research, when we need to find some product or some ticket for somewhere, and teachers are researching, actually. They are researching when they are finding out new content, or we should call these things research. And I think they are research. Of course, from an academic perspective, there are certain things you could say, well, it's not generalizable. We know this, but we want to present research as useful for the teacher and the students. Okay, and yes, I think that's a challenge. But you've talked about how you try to overcome that, and we try to do that in our handbook. So I've just put the link. I take the opportunity of your advertisement to do that. Thank you. So let's move to let's focus on the positives. Patcharin, again, if there are challenges, but also successes. They don't have to be just overcoming a challenge. Anything you found positive about mentoring?
Well, yes. So I have lots of positive things
Yeah.
about being mentor, because as I mentioned earlier, that I'm so excited moving from an active participant into a very positive and active being a mentor. But yes, from here I drop into this since the very first day of the mentor. I entered the project next year. So from 2022, I was a participant, right? And then Ajahn Santita asked me like what could I see myself for the next 5 years? Would I will still be in the research or EAR program? And I told her that I would try to do it. So yes, I moved it from being a mentee into mentor with very excitement. But yes, I took everything from what my mentor Gano had done to me, which is very good thing, right? So I keep everything with me to do the same thing from her to my mentees, and it didn't work. And yeah, it didn't work because I later learned that we are also at the same as students, that we have different style of learning. And also it's the same thing, we have different style of doing action research as well. So yeah, so Gano gave me time and space to do on my own. I can do it. I am quite confident, right? I told everyone that I am quite confident in doing things. But with some teachers, they're not really confident in conducting the research or learn things on their own. So when I gave them time, it could be the time that they can, work on their own, but it came out like they postponed like my meeting, or they postponed submitting the task. And I found that later on, one of my mentees left the program without notice. And I faced self-doubt in my ability. And, when I come up, like at the very first day, it was so high. And then later on, I felt like, this is so bad. I had bad experience, first time in my life being a mentor. And I feel like I doubt myself a lot about my ability. But later on, the project had the sharing meeting with other mentors, and I think that some of us were in that meeting as well, and they share experience on this. And one other thing I learned from that meeting is that mentor also needs some support as well. So if you have some experience or bad experience, don't be shy to share to the other. You are not perfect in everything. So yeah, sharing your bad experience, and it's the same when you are a teacher, that you had some, not a good day, and you share to the other, and then they can share, or they can give some SY. So yeah, I learned from that. And the thing that I overcome yes, I use the meeting as one of the things that I learned from the other as well. And another thing is that I adapt EAR concept. So I don't want to assume like why they left. And I focus on the remaining teachers and I start communicating more. So yeah, I talk to them more and ask them, what should we do to find a goal? What should we do to complete this together? And yeah, the success story is that two of my remaining teachers at that time, they complete the project and they were confident. And then later on, they continue with the program for another year. And that's my challenges and my success story. Thank you.
Well, again, inspiring. Thank you. Yes, you've highlighted the value of being mentored as a mentor, which of course is not always possible. But within a network like MentorNet, this is what we hope to achieve, that we can share our difficulties of becoming a mentor. And yes, nobody's perfect. We all, maybe some of you are wondering, well, they are all experienced mentors. How did they manage to do that? But we're showing today how actually we started as teachers and we started as teacher researchers. You don't suddenly become a teacher trainer. You don't suddenly become a mentor. It's a gradual process, and you have to make steps, and you hopefully have the opportunity to do this, or you create the opportunity, like Marta and Silvia, and in your school. And Patcharin was encouraged to do that. And the project in Thailand is very, very interesting because the mentors, the new mentors, are receiving mentoring themselves by more experienced mentors. And yes, thank you. So next, let's hear from Silvia. Some successes
Well,
in your experience. Yeah.
Well, the first challenge I found when I became a mentor, let's say, was to convince colleagues to carry out a project in their classroom, because as I said, we don't have any support from school authorities, and teachers can hardly find any time to do research because they have to cope with all the normal demands in their classrooms and continual pressures from school authorities. But well, and I showed my enthusiasm for action research, and some of them became curious, and I could show a very simple experiment about carrying out research in the classroom through an experience carried out or created by Parrot called Red Ink. It was a very simple project that took 2 weeks, let's say, trying to correct students' homework with a blue or a black pen instead of the classical red one, and see their reactions. And well, red is associated with threatening connotations, or I don't know, with fear, let's say. But surprisingly, students in the Parrot experiment, as well in the results that my mentees obtained, students liked to see the corrections in red, because nothing to do with that idea of threatening, or I don't know, but because they could see exactly where the mistake was, and not to explore all the writing to see where the correction by the teacher was. So this was a very nice experiment, and they said, okay, if to carry out research in my classroom won't take so much time, and I won't have to write an essay or whatever, okay, some of them get convinced, and well, fortunately, I could do that. But that was the worst part, to convince them to carry out research, and that you feel really great because you learn and you can share your experiences with others, because you read so much, you share so much in the Zoom meetings or whatever, that you want to show others that this is possible. In spite of everything, all the problems we have in Argentina, because the level of education in all the subjects is terrible, because populism has done a disaster here. Okay, action research can be done in the classroom. Well, thank you.
And thank you, Silvia. Yes, Politically, there are problems, aren't there, in different places these days. And I just remember a quotation from the first book of stories of exploratory action research from Chile, and I think it was a teacher called Mora, and he was just saying that action research provides a spark of in the darkness, a kind of spark of light, something kind of hopeful about doing this that we find, and that mentoring is we have to say this is a voluntary thing that you are doing, and you are all here today, all of you, on a weekend, Saturday, and you're very dedicated as mentors, and we are as people to one another, aren't we? Finally, Regina, would you like to share some successes from your perspective, maybe taking challenges into account?
Yeah, sure. Well, one of the challenges I faced was finding mentees. But when I finally did, it was interesting that they all came from the higher education system, the escuelas normales, the higher teacher training schools here in Mexico. And it was interesting that they were so interested in taking a step to fix their issues. Like when I started teaching research, I was an elementary or primary school teacher in a low resource environment. And it turns out that we still have that issue in Mexico, like we are still working in low resource contexts. So when I started to mentor these teachers, the first thing that I found challenging was the fact that all of them were struggling with authorities. Like, I want to implement, but I can't. So to fix that, we managed to go around and bypass those authorities to implement those projects. As in, we are doing this not because we want a promotion. No, we are not doing this because we are trying to get your job. We are doing this because it seems interesting and it may help us to be more efficient. Plus, we are training future teachers to be better teachers. What we found that work is to let authorities know that sometimes we don't have, well, most of the time, not just sometimes, but to let them know that we don't have the support that we need from the Ministry of Education. By the time we get the support from them, it's already too late. Like, students may already lost interest in learning English, may already be in higher school grades. So we are trying to address our issues there.
Mm.
So when they took that into consideration, like, they relaxed. But then I found out that I had a somewhat difficult time with them because of communication. Like, I was trying to approach them as a friend, right? But they saw me as a mentor. But in Mexico, like, I am here and they are here, which that's not true for me. Like, we are at the same level because we are colleagues helping each other. Probably I know a little bit more about some things, but I am also learning from them. So I remember that because I was struggling with that, I called other teachers and I talked with other teachers, and I participated in the mentor research meetings on Saturdays, where other mentors were also collaborating with each other and trying to figure out how to be better mentors back in 2020. And that helped me a lot because I could see other types of insight into mentoring. And we were also sharing our struggles together. After that, I found out that teachers were more interested in, now I would say, innovating, but they didn't know. Like, they wanted to change their situation, but at the time they didn't realize that a small change can be an innovative teaching practice that fixes our issues. So it's, for me, also a great source of inspiration, because I learned that they saw the mentoring at the end, of course, when it finished, as a safe space to not only share their thoughts about their teaching, but also to, what's the word I'm trying to say? Like in Spanish, we say quejarse, but to complain about all the issues that they were facing, right? But they didn't know how to approach them. But this complaining was more like, and they were trying to reflect about their teaching practice, but they didn't know how to, despite being teachers in higher education. Like this complaining, where does it go? So I started like thinking about how I was communicating with them, and going back to, okay, what did my mentors did back when I was a mentee? And I started asking questions, trying to redirect the conversation toward questions that make them reflect. So at some point, I felt that the greatest learning and success that I had was that they developed that mindset of reflecting about their teaching practice and stop complaining, of course. And now I feel that they are empowered in the way that we are not waiting for other people to fix or solve our problems. We are doing it ourselves because we know we can, and we don't have to wait for anyone. And that's what I believe what's the most impactful. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I think that's a great message, Regina, and I think that goes to the heart of why we do this and why we are committed to this, because we are being realistic here about the challenges that teachers face, but also the challenges in getting projects off the ground, getting initiatives off the ground. Unfortunately, just like I'm being critical of universities, I'm being critical of education authorities. They should be there to facilitate development of teachers, but so often they're rather cynical, it sounds like, about teachers' abilities to do anything for themselves. And I think a lot of academics as well, unfortunately, they don't really trust teachers to be experts in their classrooms. But I can see I know teachers that you work with, how there are teachers, many teachers, most teachers maybe in the world, do want to do a good job. They devote a lot of time, their own time, not being paid for it, to develop themselves, to do the best for their students. And I think it's all about finding what my friend Flavia Vieira in Portugal called, Madalena may know her, spaces of freedom, trying to find, there are spaces, there are little gaps that we can creatively, push the door a little bit open. And you showed that, Regina, in your story, that, if we take on a bit of agency, a bit more, and several of you have shown how, despite the challenges, despite the constraints, we can push the door open a little bit further. And that's why we do this, isn't it? That we know it's empowering for teachers to start to do research and do in their classrooms, not just reflect, but to actually gather some data, and that can be very empowering. I think that's where we finish that conversation. So you could say we've ended our presentation, our talk from the teachers, 5 teachers now, and you may need to go because we've done it for an hour. But if you don't need to go, I'd like to have a little bit more conversation and interaction until maybe 20 more minutes. So if you have to go, feel free, don't worry. The recording will be available on the Mentornet website. But let me see if there are any questions or comments from the audience. I know that Anna asked a question earlier. It's an interesting question. Anna Garcia, one of our Mentornet leaders, saying, would you like to ask? Do you want to ask your question yourself then?
As a Mentornet leader,
Yeah.
I wondered if the panelists felt that in order to become an effective mentor or a better mentor or a more empathetic mentor, you need first to be a teacher and to have carried out classroom-based research before you become a mentor?
Well, I think it's very useful to have been there in the classroom and to face all the problems we teachers have. So it helps a lot to understand mentees. But well, it's not a requirement, special requirement, but I think it helps.
Can I
think
share?
that,
Patcharin?
oh,
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
Patcharin?
Yeah.
I
So,
think that it, oh,
sorry.
go ahead, Rabbit. Okay. No, I think that you have to have been in the situation, because otherwise we would be, again, doing what our Ministry of Education in Buenos Aires does, imagining or supposing that teachers have this or that situation, or, or an issue in the class. So if you have never experienced it, it must be very hard or a bit more difficult to get into the teachers shoes. I mean, otherwise, how could you? There may be, I'm not saying that there may be good and excellent mentors who are not teachers, maybe, right? But I don't know. I'm so in love with the teaching profession that I wouldn't allow anyone who has not been working in a classroom for at least 2 months to come and tell me, hey, you have to do this or that. How come?
Patcharin?
I've become very territorial, sorry.
Okay, so thank you. Let me share from my experience then. I think that yeah, so I think that I agree with Maria at some point. So yeah, for my own experience, if I didn't do it, I don't know how to tell them like what is like to do the EAR in classroom. But actually EAR can be in any kind of situation, right? We always mention about that. As I mentioned it, I always do this with the doing at the mentoring session as well. So I think that the concept is there. But if you are going to be specifically talking about classroom, you still need to be in the classroom to know what it's like. But being a teacher, let's say for teacher trainee, like they are going to be a teacher and they learn about EAR and they want to try it out, they still need classroom context to learn about that as well. They might not be good at or have a lot of years of experience in teaching, but they could try to use EAR to help them as well. So I think both way can be like have lots of experience, but less experienced teacher can do that. So let's think of EAR as the concept, like universal concept, but more experience is better for you as mentor, let's say that.
I would like to add
Regina?
something.
Go
I
ahead.
feel that first we need to be teacher researchers, especially in Latin America, because there are two things that we need to address with our mentees, which is the teaching issues and how to navigate the system, right? So how are we going to address those little challenges that are outside of our control? So in my opinion, when we have been there, we have walked a mile in other people's shoes, it's easier to let them know what to do and make their lives easier, especially when they are overwhelmed about the word research and data. And you need to collect data and you need to also analyze it, like they seem to be overwhelmed at some point. But again, that just makes 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you. Sidney, do you want to add anything?
Yeah. Well, actually, it is important, I guess, because I'm really interested in feedback processes and everything, and mentoring is based on feedback. And and it's about delivering feedback, and feedback is based on trust, and who's giving the feedback is the source has to be reliable, trustworthy, experienced. So I think mentoring, since it's about delivering feedback, it's got to be trustworthy, somebody who's got experience, and then that feedback will be well received, I think. So yes, if you've been a teacher researcher, you will be more accepted, more welcome. Your feedback will be more welcome, I think.
Yeah, thanks, Sydney. Silvia, I think you said something before. Did you want to add anything? Or that's okay. Yeah. So I'll just add a little perspective here. Mentoring, of course, can mean different things in different contexts, and I suppose we should make clear what we mean by mentoring. And we've made this handbook for mentoring teacher research. I think that I can't find the definition now, but it's definitely not very hierarchical kind of telling a teacher what they should be doing. It's definitely, that's not what we are talking about. We're talking about scaffolding. We're talking about guiding, and the mentor in that sense is trying to be not exactly on the same level because the mentor has more experience, but not forcing a teacher, not really telling a teacher what they should do, but focusing on the teacher's autonomy, the teacher's development of the teacher's ability to do things for themselves. I think that's quite important. And you can't be a good mentor in that sense if you are setting yourself up as superior in some way, which can happen with university-based mentors talking down to teachers. Now, I don't want to stereotype all university mentors because I think we ourselves as university teachers, we are teachers, right? It's not a division between all the researchers, almost all the researchers I know, they are teachers. We're teaching a lot of the time. And we can, as university teacher educators, we can research our own practice. Just like Patcharin mentioned, solving a problem of worrying about people dropping out as a mentor by herself, start deciding to explore that. And that was the way of coping with that situation. Well, teacher educators like myself, we face issues in the classroom all the time. Asya, I can see you're there as well. It's nice to welcome you. Asya, also a university-based teacher educator, experienced mentor. But I'm sure she agrees that we are teachers, okay? And if we identify, and if teacher educators should, I think, and can, being prescriptive, should identify themselves as teachers. And even if you've never done teacher research before, let's start doing it. Let's start researching our own practice as teacher educators, as mentors. But I think it's about the intention. It's about the willingness. I know that there are university teacher educators involved in the project in Thailand. Paula, my friend, colleague, Paula Riviero, she always emphasized in Champion Teachers program that that it would be ideal for people like Regina to become mentors, local mentors who know the situation, who know the context. That's right. That's right. That's why Patcharin is a great mentor in Thailand, right? She's coming from that context. Silvia and Marta, they're also coming from that background. Sidney himself has a background in teaching. That gives you face validity. It gives you, it means that teachers will trust you, just like I think one of you said. You wouldn't trust, Marta said, you wouldn't trust somebody who had never taught before, you know? Okay, but there is a willingness, and we want to encourage more and more teacher educators and more local education authorities to believe that teachers can do this, that teachers can, as Regina was saying, teachers can develop themselves. They need support, but they can take things into their own hands collaboratively. And to support that, through this festival, we want to inspire teacher educators in universities. We want to inspire local education authorities. We want to inspire NGOs to set this up. So we should say, I think, even if there is a willingness, You can be a facilitator of teacher research, but you have to want to do that, and you have to be self-critical, and you have to want to explore, what you are doing, and what is the power relationship, being self-critical in that respect, not talking down to teachers. You have to understand that teachers are not going to look at research in the same way as academics look at research. You have to take this on board. Otherwise, it's not going to work. It's going to be just another top-down imposition, like we see in different contexts, where teachers are being told they should do research, they should do research, they should do research. That's not what we think, because that's not really committing to facilitating that process. So, sorry, that's my little speech. Asya, I see you switch on your camera. Would you like to make any comments? Unmute. You have to unmute.
Yeah, voila. Yes. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to say a few words. I would like to first quickly introduce myself. My name is Asya Rolls, and I have changed universities recently. I am now at the Open University, and I have been very busy developing a special issue with colleagues. It is, thank God, completed now. Oh, it's a different matter working with academic journals, but it's been completed, and I think completed successfully. So that's why I have been able to join you today. And I would like to say that I am at awe, seeing all the work that Richards and all the participants have been doing over the last years with, mentoring teachers across the world. So it's absolutely fabulous. And I'm really, really very impressed, because it can be difficult, and I can see the face on the screen, someone saying that it's difficult doing it without institutional support. Yes, it's true. It's very difficult. And this has been confirmed in an article forthcoming by Burns and Edward, or rather the opposite, Edward, saying that it is very difficult for PR, any kind of PR, EAR, action research, to thrive without the support of practitioner research, of institutions. And my questions, if I can ask it, because I've asked it earlier, is very similar to the one asked by Kalyan just after me. And my question is, I wonder whether the mentoring processes have helped the mentees to change, for instance, to do something about the relationship that the teachers have with their learners. So that's my question.
Thank you, Asya. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Asya. Thank you for joining us. I hope you continue to be
I
with
hope
us.
so.
And,
I hope so.
yeah.
I will.
Okay. I'll just combine that. Kalyan, I can see you're there as well, and I'll just combine it with Kalyan's question, who also asked, how has mentoring, just after Asya actually, how has mentoring changed your practices as researchers, as teachers, as teacher trainers, teacher educators? So, yes, I think we're talking about you as teachers in this case, actually, yes, let's go back to that, because all of you today have started as teachers, as teacher researchers. And let's go back to that and just remind everybody here that as you know, you can begin with teacher research, which we recommend, even if you can't do it. We recommend, if you're a teacher educator, well, we recommend that you should, okay, as teacher educators as well, do research into your practice. Then you may become a mentor, and this is how you all began. This will be the last question today. You go back to how you began as teachers, just starting to do teacher research, and what was the value? What did it actually change in you? If you think about yourself back in the day when you started off, and how have you developed as a human being or as a teacher through being mentored? Patcharin, can we begin with you?
Okay, thank you. So let's think about what I like the most of learning from EAR. So I mentioned earlier that I learn listen more from the student. And I think that I share this experience with the webinar that I share with the teachers around teaching Asia from British Council, that from what I did with the EAR is that I always confident with my teaching, and I like the way that EAR helped me to reflect on my teaching and think about what I missed in the class, because I always turn into the right hand side of my class, because the student at that class, they're really responsive on me, but the student on the left hand side will left behind because they are less responsive. And I don't really think that that's the impact on my classroom until one day I did the EAR and asked them about my teaching grammar in the classroom. And they said that why I always turn into the right hand side. Why not look at them? So this is the most surprise to me, that, oh, I thought that I'm so confident and I'm great at teaching, but this little thing really affects me, that I always I didn't really take all the students into account, just the one who respond to me. Yeah. So I think that I learned from this, I need to listen more and what they want me to change. Yeah. So this really helped me. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Patcharin. So that's an impact from the process of doing exploratory action research. Yeah, that's changed you a lot, and you listen more. Great. And of course, a mentor needs to listen as well to teachers. All right, let's go to Silvia. Final words from you.
Well, my final words is that you have to learn to be patient, to be flexible, to understand your mentees, and to set a clear boundaries and try to avoid the interference of your own teaching experience, right? And also it helps to help mentees to feel less frustrated when something didn't work. So you have to try in another way and you have to go on. Nothing should stop you to go on investigating, being your own private investigator in your classroom. You have to help your students, and that's it. You have always the opportunity to grow and to develop your professional career. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Silvia. How about Regina?
Hello. Yes, about the Ash's question. Yes, I learned to listen to my students. They were always telling me those things, the things that they needed, but I wasn't listening, right? Like they were always trying to reach out to me, but for some reason at the time when I started, I wasn't listening. And when the process of exploratory action research started, was like a turning point. It was a turning point, not like, it was a turning point, because I figured out what to do to listen to them. And Patcharin said, I focused my attention on that, which wasn't happening at the time. And finally, as a mentor, I think that the process of becoming a mentor is a lot of error and practice and reflecting and then trying again and again and figuring out what is it that my mentee needs from me when they are not telling me what they need. Not because they don't want, but because they haven't figured them out themselves. So like I need to be a step up, not above, but a step further.
Ahead.
And ahead. So I can help them in the best possible way. Which is funny because we show the way, but they need to walk the path, right? It's just what it is. And they need to put all their effort and direct all the resources. And I'm not talking money, I'm talking, physical resources, mental resources, emotional resources to conduct exploratory action research, to see the difference. Once they see that, it's easier for them to keep going by themselves.
Yeah.
or at least that's what they have told me and reported
Okay.
to me. And that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Regina. And Maria Marta.
Well, two things. One reflection as a teacher researcher that I can share with you is that I find how incredible and how useful the feedback from your students is for you to become a better teacher. And before you become, to realize that you were quite weak or quite limited. And with their feedback, you can discover many things that you were doing, maybe not wrongly, but you could have done better. And you will surely do better, at least in that little aspect of your class. So I loved that about being a teacher researcher and about becoming a mentor of teacher research. Very simple, do join MentorNet. There you are.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That's the last piece of advice from Maria Marta. Thank you. I suppose I'll put the link in the chat for MentorNet. And finally, Sidney, what are your last words for everybody?
Yeah. Well, after being mentored, you become a better active listener, and I think more importantly, you feel more connected with mentor and students. I mean, it's both ways. And I think mentoring is a powerful tool for bonding, and there's an emotional component in mentoring which is powerful when it is well used. And I think school authorities and institutional authorities, universities, I think that they're all interested in that emotional component. If you get this bonding between teachers, mentors, mentees, then things run better.
Yeah, it's the glue that binds us. And that's a nice way to end. I mean, actually, the emotional side, the affective side of this whole enterprise that we're involved in is very important to recognize. And I hope you're right that well-being that comes about through mentoring, being mentored, through listening to students, through the rapport that can develop within the classroom, through the process. I hope that educational authorities and teacher educators will all listen, and they can only hear about this if we keep raising our voices, if we keep not raising our voices, but if we keep doing what we are doing and sharing what we are doing. And in the meantime, even if they don't listen, we are empowering ourselves by interacting like this across countries, which we need to do more and more. And look how international we are, and how we can talk to each other in this way, and sometimes share vulnerabilities, share that we're not perfect in everything. And I really appreciate your openness today, 5 of you, and thank you all of you. I think everybody has found this very inspiring, and more people will watch this as well on the recording in the future. I think I'll finish there and just say finish by thanking all of you, 5 excellent teacher researchers becoming mentors, and wish you all the best. And thanks for sharing your experiences, and thank you everybody for being here and listening. Final thing I should say, of course, is that we welcome you to our next event, which will be on December the 14th. We talked about educational authorities and the way that we would like them to support us. Last webinar was school administrators and involving them in supporting teacher research, which is something we also hope will happen. But the next one will be Rama Matthew, again, like Cassie, a very experienced mentor of teacher research, and talking about what work that she has been doing in India, in Delhi, with an SCERT, which is a local authority teacher education institution, supporting teacher researchers. So just like all of our events, we are hoping they will inspire others to get involved. So if you're in touch with local authorities yourselves, maybe this is something to encourage them to come to or to watch the recording of later on the 14th of December. Some of you mentioned pre-service teacher education, how we can try to get teacher trainees involved. And our January event will be a panel discussion of teacher educators who have been trying to get student teachers involved. So we're trying to have variety of different formats. But today's has been really inspiring. Simply, teachers, teacher researchers who've benefited themselves from teacher research, wanting to go further, becoming mentors. Okay, thank you all of you, and bye-bye, everyone. See you at the next event, I hope. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank
Bye-bye.
you very much.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
สวัสดีค่ะ บ๊ายบาย
Bye-bye.
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 Bye. Bye-bye. Thank you.